Hello students, welcome to your biology class. So in the last videos we read about the pollination and we have understood also the types of pollination, that is your self pollination and cross pollination, and we well understood that how pollination takes place in self pollination and in cross pollination. Today we are going to read about how cross pollination occurs with the help of agents like wind, insect, water, and other as pollinators. So let us learn how pollination by wind takes place. The flowers that use wind pollination are dull, small, and odorless. Pollen grains are transferred through wind to the stigma of another flower. So we read that cross pollination means the transfer of pollen grains from one flower to another flower of different plant to the stigma is called your cross pollination. Okay. So by the wind, how it will be? So some plants like maize and wheat, they have dry and light pollen grains, and they have dull, small, and they are odorless. Okay. So they produce large amount of pollen grains. Okay. So as the flowers of these plants get matured, pollen grains are blown away by the wind, and some of these pollen grains fall on the stigma of another flower of the same time. Thus it is resulting in the pollination. So you understood? So wind pollination will occur by which plants? That flowers which have produce very light and dry pollen grains, and they are dull and the small and have odorless flowers. Okay, they should produce large amount of pollen grains, and that should be light also, so that it can blow in the air easily. So after blowing, it will fall on the stigma of any other plant of the same time. Like this way the pollination occurs. Then you can see this picture, how the pollen grains are blowing in the air. Okay, like this way the pollination occurs. Coconut, palm, maize, grass, and all gymnosperms are the best example of wind pollinated plants. So you have to remember that coconut, palm, maize, grass, and they are the gymnosperms, and they are the example of your wind pollination. Okay. Then we will read, let us learn how pollination by insect takes place. Flowers pollinated by insects are often attracted to bright petals and fragrance. So you know that flower is the bright and colorful part of the plant. So it attracts the insect for pollination, or you can say the fertilization. Many of the insect pollinated flowers also secrete nectar, which attracts bees and butterflies. Pollen grains then stick to the body of the insect and bring about pollination. So what happens in the pollination by water? We are reading the pollination by insects. So what happens here? The insects, they are searching of their food. Okay, so they suck the nectar from one flower and they go to another flower for collecting more nectar. At that time, some pollen grains are attached to the insect, and after sitting on another flower, that pollen grains will stick to the stigma. Like this way, the cross pollination is occurred by the insect. Okay, understood students? Then we will discuss about pollination by water. You can see the pictures. Okay, so the example here, Hydrilla and Vallisneria, like these plants, okay, mostly they are the aquatic plants and are completely submerged in water. So on maturity they get attached and float on the surface of water. So you can see the picture how they are floating on the surface of water before they are attached to the plant, but after the maturity they are detached and float on the surface of water. Then the female flower that has a long stalk and also floats on the surface of water. You can see the long stalk. So this is the stalk. You can see that female flower that has the stalk. So then what will happen? The female, when a male flower moving with water comes in contact with the female flower, and the pollen grains will fall on the stigma. Like this way they are leading to pollination. Okay, you understood, student? The pollen from the flowers of these plants is adapted to be able to float in water and thus comes in contact with other plants to bring about pollination. So if these plants and their pollen grains or the flowers, they are attached to the plant only, they cannot do the pollination. Okay, they have to detached from the plant and they will float in water and thus they will come contact with any other plant, okay, to bring pollination. So what is the best example is your Vallisneria. Vallisneria is the best example of water pollution. So all of you see this picture. The staminate flowers. Staminate flower means they are in the developed stage. Okay, at that time they are attached to the plant, and the male flowers, can you see? And these staminate flowers are after maturity they are floating on the surface of water. Then this side, the stuck, you can say the female flower one, this is your stuck, and this one is your female, okay, female flower. So here when this male flower, or you can say this pollen grains, will come contact with this pistil, that will form the pollination. Okay, okay, this much for today's class. So after watching this video, you read page 22 and 23 of your biology book, and the remaining of this chapter, your fertilization, an interesting topic, we will discuss in your next video. Thank you.